Erkänn att du hade fel.
Yo guys, Coach Theo here, Uncommon Sense. Confession time, guys. I was wrong.
Fel.
About pretty much everything in this life, and this may surprise you to hear, seeing as all of you guys, you know that I'm always right about pretty much everything I say and do here on the Uncommon Sense channel. But the reason I'm as good as always right is because I faced all the things I was wrong about, and I've done so over and over and over and over, and I keep doing so. You know, I'm of course joking and provoking here at the start, but it is one thing that drives people mad about me online and in real life, that about certain things I will assert my opinion, my view on things as if it's definitely the truth. There's just no wiggle room. Not even ever that I just contradict people, but the way I assert, the way I look at things, I've noticed that it really drives people mad, that you think you're perfect, you think you know best about everything. All these things that are hilarious to me when people ascribe to me, because I am very well aware that I'm not perfect. In fact, I keep saying so all the time. In my videos, I keep coming back and talking about how I used to be, the mistakes I've done. When I talk in a very harsh and lecturing tone, it's always directed to a kind of person that I always was, right? So the thing is, you know how you end up being right almost all the time? Well, from questioning yourself, okay? Looking at everything you do and daring to admit when you are right. Actually, since we started in that, and it's like people think it's dirty to just get to own that, yeah, I'm right. I'm good at this. I know best about this. I am the expert at this. You should listen to me, not the other way around. You know, you don't have to use those words, but having that attitude within that, yeah, I know that I know best about this. But also, of course, facing the things you might be wrong about. Do you know that the first video I put out on this channel 6 years ago, when it was still called Osunt Förnuft, the very first video I made is called Get rid of bad mental health, psykisk ohälsa, Swedish. Then erkänn att du hade fel. Admit that you were wrong.
Erkänn att du hade fel. Du hade uppenbarligen fel.
This is something I've been going on and on about ever since I started my uncommon sense journey, okay? About admitting that you were wrong, taking responsibility, and being honest with yourself. And this year, even more clearly than ever, I realized that what has taken me so far in the things that I do, whether that's just fitness, purely fitness, or just my general self-development, my understanding of myself, improving on literally every aspect of myself, the main thing has been my willingness to admit when I was wrong and face the truth over and over and over again. Because I've noticed that we people, we lie. We love to lie to ourselves. Sometimes it's more like almost conscious, like we're in denial and we kind of know it, but we don't even dare to go there, you know. Sometimes we just don't fully understand ourselves, and we make up a story about something that we feel or experience, that it might not be an outright lie, that the intent is there, but it's just not true, right? So when we're talking about being right and wrong, there are a few different ways I think we can talk about it. Like being right, first and foremost, it should be like being truthful, okay? Being correct. Like who is right? Who is the most right of all? God up above, right? God has to be right about everything. And as a man, we're trying to, God is our role model in a sense. So a man is right. A man should try to be right. But of course a man isn't God, so he won't always be right. But the goal is to become more and more right. And you understand that it's not right as in winning arguments. See, I had the finishing point, I won the argument, right? No, just playing the game right, correct, telling the truth. Telling and acting in line with the truth as much as possible at all times, right?
Du hade fel. Det är okej. Erkänn det bara.
Yeah, so there's one aspect of being right that's about truth and honesty, you know, daring to face, where you might want to lie to yourself. I'm sitting down because of the wind. But yeah, but there's also one aspect where it's literally just from ignorance. You can be wrong about something and it has nothing to do with denying the truth or yeah, not daring to see things for what they are, that you just didn't know better. So you were ignorant, right? And so I was wrong about so many things in my previous life, right? I thought there was no God. I was wrong. I thought the ultimate quest as a man pretty much was to conquer, to sleep with as many women as possible. This is what I should be doing as a man. This is what makes me worthy as a man. I was wrong. I thought I was unlovable. I was wrong. I thought certain things that happened earlier on in my life just ruined it, destroyed my chances at getting the sort of life that I would have wanted. I was wrong. I thought that because of all these things outside of me, I could see certain strengths that I had. I could see certain weaknesses as well. But I thought that because of the times I'm brought up in, the society, the political climate, everything that's going on, that's why I cannot get to express my strengths. I would be so much more successful in a different environment if only it wasn't for this, and this thing outside of me. Again, I was wrong. I was wrong about everything, okay? And one final thing I definitely was wrong about is that I thought I need to appear a certain way to other people, right? First and foremost, this thing with sleeping with girls, of course, that's something. I need to appear like someone that does that. For other women, so I try to see that guy, he gets laid, he gets us women, so I admire that guy. Or clearly there's something about him because these other girls slept with him. And of course, because that's what I think men should do, that I have to appear like someone that can get laid to other guys, right? But also, yeah, I thought, I need to appear, so I have to have my shit together, right? Oh yeah, I know where I'm heading in life when it comes to studying and work and stuff. And oh yeah, I clearly have hobbies and friends and these important and fun, interesting, cool things that I'm part of. I thought it was very important that I appear this way to the world. And if I didn't, well, I didn't know exactly what would happen, but what I know now is that I felt like, well, I will be rejected and abandoned. If I show the entirety of my authentic self, I will be rejected and abandoned for it, right? Again, I was wrong. You see, all of this leading up to the panic attacks that I've told the story so many times. If you're new, hit rock bottom, used to be skinny fat loser, hedonist, nihilist, anxious, depressed kind of guy. You know, I've been escaping reality through vices. My only real mission was to try to sleep with girls. I had this choir I was very involved in. That was like my one thing, important thing I had in life. But everything, any job, anything I studied, it was just because you gotta go do something. I never felt like it had any purpose or meaning or would lead to anything. I just get drunk, chase girls, smoke weed, hang out with guys, doing all this, play video games, porn, all that kind of shit, right? And I've been living this lie for myself that, you know, I try to tell myself that I'm this alpha male. Yeah, of course, I am just a certain type and blah, 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 blah. But, no, of course, I am alpha because of this, and this reason I make up in my head, right? And, oh yeah, I'm smart and I'm cool and I know this, I'm better in this way, and blah, blah, blah. All these lies, I try to tell myself to feel good about myself. What I'm actually feeling is not the same. Like, it's not truth. This is not the truth that I'm telling myself, right? Because, well, I could mechanically sleep with some girls, but I just felt like, no, women have this sort of power over me, right? I want something from them that I have to try to get. Whether I get it or not, I am in the position to try to get it. It's not the other way around at all, right? And yeah, all these things I would tell myself about how I'm actually alpha and I can be assertive, I can do this and that. Well, it was not true at all because I had extreme stage fright. I felt like that was something I really wanted to do. You know, I was in this choir situation, maybe not soloist, but certainly on concerts, sometimes someone will do a little speaker and stuff. All these kinds of things was something I really felt I was meant to do, but I was terrified for it. I have this heritable tremor. I always tremble a little bit in my hand. And of course, I wanted to make up the story that it's because of this, because I get stronger. It is true that being nervous, I will shake more than the average person because I already have a baseline shakiness. And in my head, I wanted to make up that this is why I have such a problem with these stage situations. I'm really meant for it, but since it's become a bad pattern, that, you know, since I know I tremble and I'm afraid of getting nervous, yeah, now I'm in this situation. It's not me, you know, it's not me and my intrinsic insecurity and fear of being seen for who I truly am and ultimately rejected and abandoned for it. No, it's not that at all. It's this thing with my trembling hand. But of course I was wrong about that too. I had this big fear of exposing myself, showing weakness, something I learned a lot from my childhood with my autistic brother. When I am pretty much told that I am the stronger one, I have to be above all the unfair shit that I get put through. when he's violent towards me for very, very, very unreasonable pretty much.
Erkänn att du gjorde fel. Betyder inte att du är dålig. Alla gör fel.
Pretty much showing anger or weakness were things that I learned that I'm bad. I cannot do that because then something bad will happen. I will be left. I will be abandoned. I will be punished or whatever, right? And so before the panic attack started, that's when the house of cards started to just falling apart, I started facing this. In a video I shot recently, we'll see in what order I upload this, but I asked myself this question, would I want my daughter to be with a guy like me? I asked myself many questions like this, and when I faced the truth, it was extremely painful that no, I would be a fool to recommend a guy like me as a boyfriend to anyone, right? I actually thought this. And I realized I am a scared little coward. I see certain things I think is wrong in society, but I don't dare to speak up of it. I make up all these, you can lose your job and blah, 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 which there's some truth to. You have to be strategic. But many people that use those excuses, still, they are afraid of certain reactions from people where they would really not have to fear any other consequences than possibly, this person got mad at me, right?
Erkänn att du hade fel. Ändra på det.
Yeah, so I started facing these lies. I started seeing that I've been lying to myself about how fucking great I am and that all my misfortune isn't actually due to me, and just realizing, no, it is. But then still, I felt like I'm in this situation now, though. I've wasted my, life up until 25 doing so much bullshit. I've studied journalism that I now hate. I'm in debt over this. I don't have much money. I don't know where to go. I'm extremely unhappy. And I still feel in this, it's like not like I can admit this to anyone, that I feel like shit, I feel terrible. I need, things need to change, because I have to put up this that I thought, that another thing I was wrong about, that I just had to pretend to keep it all together, right? And I'm mentioning all these things because these are things everyone struggles with to some degree. I'm not good enough. I need to come off like this. I need to make it seem that I'm doing well, right? Then I go through this ordeal with the panic attacks where, I have to face something similar that I had to with a stage fright thing, for instance, because at the times I would expose, I felt so ashamed, that I didn't want to. The Theo, that's still the old version of Theo, he could be quite confident and assertive and funny, relaxed in many situations. It was showing that part when I was just absolutely trembling nervous. That felt horrible to me. I avoided it as much as I could, right? But then now suddenly with this panic attack situation where I both, first of all, realized I actually have to face, like I'd known deep down, I would have to face these stage situations to overcome. I didn't think in terms of the nervous system back then, but pretty much I had to teach my nervous system that this is not a threatening situation. Well, now I just had to act on that. And I had the same dilemma though. At the job I've been at, when I feel like I'm looked in a positive way, the cool, funny, relaxed, confident guy. And suddenly I have to reveal this part of it, like I can just absolutely freak out for seemingly no reason. It's so shameful, I feel like. Why the fuck is he freaking out? What's wrong with him? These are the things I feel like people will think. But it turned out that I was wrong.
Fel!
And I had to, because that's not, of course you don't appear impressive at those moments. But people, if anything, they feel bad for you. And not in a pitiful way. It's like, man, whatever that is, if he is like that he must have a really difficult time now, right? Same thing that I've had this sort of people pleaser tendency. I've felt this need, I need to say yes to people. I can't let people down at the expense of myself many times. It can be a good thing to be that kind of person, but not when you self-abandon. And now I was just forced to say no, cancel stuff so many times in a way that I wouldn't have been comfortable with, but it's like it was just no way that I could come do whatever it was for the panic attack. And I felt too bad about just avoiding, just ghosting people, so I would say it. And gradually, as I went through all of this, and I overcame the panic attacks also in the end from this exposure therapy, but suddenly all this fucking pressure I put on myself with stuff, I tell myself lies about who I am, and I have a certain thinking that I have to live up to certain things, or else it's all lost. Cannot reveal this. Because then girls will ever want me. No one will ever want to be my friend. I'll never get this opportunity. And when it just turned out I was wrong about fucking everything. And do you know how relieving that is? Hey, this fucking web of lies that I felt stuck in, that, man, I'm completely entangled. How will I ever get out of this? Now, actually having to admit and face the truth of things and finding out that it was also a lie, the consequences that would come from facing the truth. Nothing really happened with all these other people, right? And suddenly, instead of sitting in this web of lies and feeling like I have to try to somehow fix things from here, now I've untangled myself, fallen down from the web of lies. And yeah, maybe I'm not at my strongest, but fuck, I can actually move freely. I'm not inhibited by all these lies anymore. Wow, I have a fresh, how liberating it is that, yeah, I was wrong about pretty much everything up until this point in my life, right? I have a clean slate. Okay, I was wrong. Now let's do things right. And so I started, I started training and eating better, right? Drinking less, improving all my habits in this sort of way. Gradually, also I don't want to exploit girls. Just I own habit. I slept with a few girls, but I started I don't even want that personally, and I actually feel bad about just using someone now. I've never been a complete player or something, but I could definitely give some girl the appearance that I'm interested in something more than sex, but it's really just sex. I don't want to do anything like that now. I start just admitting what do I think is moral and right to do. And instead of having these excuses, like my former self would have, well, I would be different to women, but they are terrible now because of all this feminism and that, so I'll just don't. Now, it's the thing, it doesn't work. Two wrongs don't make a right. Just because everyone else is doing wrong, you cannot, it doesn't make you right being wrong then. No, you have to stick to what you know to be right. And that's the thing, you will love and respect yourself so much more, regardless of the outer response to this, that you live in line with your values and the truth. You're not abandoning God, really. You're actually what truly matters for you. You're going to feel good from this, right? So this is one thing, just a relationship to self, that, hey, everything I think a person should do morally, and that I actually, I'm not perfect. I can always stumble my toes on the road. But for the most part, I actually live up to all of this. Because, of course, that's another thing that people like. They love to sit and talk about, criticize other people as if they're somehow better, but they're not really, They're not living up to all the things because they have their lie, their excuse for why they get to do it. These other people, though. So the thing is, all these lies, they're just like a drug, right? When you tell stories to yourself that aren't actually true, it might feel empowering right in that moment, whether it's in your head or out loud to someone else. But the truth will always come back to haunt you, right? If you tell yourself, I'm this alpha Chad, and I feel super confident with women, and then you don't, that's going to be what dominates your experience, right? So actually living in line with what you think is true, moral, and right, that's how you're going to love yourself and feel the best, the most comfortable in yourself in your life. But then the next thing, just daring to admit when the path you started going down was just not right. And so I don't want to make this video too long now because I made the major points. But for instance, a thing like training, it's hard to come up with specific examples off the top of my head. But then it's not about values and morals. It's just, you don't know exactly what you're doing. You start doing something. One thing I can come up with is that I had to realize at some point that, I'm doing way too much. That's unusual. Most people do too little and make up lies and excuses about it. But my fear of not being enough, not doing enough, made me, at one point I can remember, I just overtrained and my body was so stiff. I had what's called upper cross syndrome. My traps and upper chest is it feels like a steel collar, I would wake up in the middle of the night, feeling all exhausted, but all this cortisol would wake me up. And I just had to admit, that, okay, I went too far. It was clearly not good. I changed. I start training less, still a lot, but less, because I don't want to tell it all. I had switched to an upper-lower from a push-pull legs, but pretty much squeezed in entirety of a push and pull in the upper, where it was way too much. And then when I moved back and I started feeling better and even making faster gains, I was wrong, right? It's like when I found a fasting, I tried to find a way to stay lean, bulk in the week and fast on the weekend, to gain muscle but stay shredded. But doing it in that sort of way, in that aggressive fashion, it just wasn't right. I was wrong. I had to, there is a possibility, just for you to wonder, depending on where you're at and how you do it, you can combine some fasting and gaining muscle. But the way I did it was just way too aggressive. And I had to admit I was wrong. When I went back to doing just intermittent fasting, my gains exploded again. I was wrong about the way I tried to approach it. I'll have to keep the longer fast separate and have these blocks of doing things differently. One last thing I'll say, one very difficult thing is the relationship I've been in, which been a tricky story, very also not due to us, the two of us, just a situation, been on and off. And you know, I want to bring this up without saying anything too specific, that sometimes it's terrible to have to face that you were wrong, as in you were wrong, but it's like, it's very understandable that you were wrong. You cannot really be blamed. You cannot be accused of being like a bad, like morally bad or a weak person or something. You were just put in such an unfair and difficult predicament for you, and couldn't handle it. Still, you couldn't handle it. You were wrong, and it's so hard to have to admit these things. That fuck, you know, yeah. You want to focus on the explanations, the excuses. Really, your explanation is an excuse. Why it did it have to do with it? No, it was all in this situation. Blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, sure. Life throws you some extreme curveballs sometimes, and it's not like you're supposed to be able to deal with everything right perfectly from the start. But at a point, like in that situation, at the point I couldn't really blame the situation for certain things that happened to me. No, it was me acting wrong, actually. I was wrong about the way I acted. I could have saved myself some aches and pains. I could have gone through it with going less deep into the darkness if I knew better. Of course, you're not supposed to know better. That's why you have to give yourself. You have to be able to admit when you're wrong, but not make it this like punishment. It's actually for your good, just like it was before. I for so long felt terrible in my life, and I tried to make up all these lies. How it's not my fault, and it's actually this and this and that. But how liberating it was when it was like, yeah, well, Theo, now you understand. Yeah, your environment is part of it. Yeah, your difficult upbringing, autistic brother, abusive other family members to some extent, you know. Yeah, a lot of that wasn't your fault. But then you didn't find the best way to deal with it. And now, yeah, you were wrong, but awesome. Now we know. Now you get the chance to thrive and do things differently, right? So that's the thing, guys. That's why the things on my channel, in my comment section, you know, I view this as my school. You know, I will write lengthy comments to many people when I'm in this sort of mode, when I'm very extroverted, right? And that's because you've come to my school, and because I'm pretty damn sure that I know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about, and I'm gonna tell you. And sometimes more words are needed for that. But you have to understand, I don't get into these kinds of argumentations anywhere else online. It's just in my comment section, because when it comes to my topics, and I base so much of the points I make on stories about myself. So even when people comment on me and I like explain myself, I'm actually explaining again the point I'm trying to make, right? And so that's the thing, guys, with everything uncommon sense, again, because I'm not God. I will be wrong about things. So, that's the last thing to say about right and wrong. It's not always either or. You can be more right. You know, you can do the training program that's pretty good for you. But then you can figure out something that's even better. So the first one, it was right, but this is even more right. You see what I mean? So of course, I'll be able to update some of my views. It might turn out that something I really thought was right, I might actually change my opinion in a bigger way, you know. Well, that's why, guys, why I know these things around self-development, uncommon sense, building muscle, certain defense mechanisms we have psychologically, how stuff around emotions and trauma and all kinds of shit that could be relevant here on the Uncommon Sense channel. I'm right almost always about them because I've had to face so many times I was wrong and update my perspective.
Erkänn att du hade fel. Erkänn att du hade fel som har lett så nu och ändra på dig. Det är ändra på dig som är nyckeln.
So I guess one point is just to you, the viewer. It's like, if you don't initially agree with me or you don't quite see where I'm coming from, just assume that I have pretty fucking good reasons to say what I do. Not that you should just take my word as truth, but take it in and consider it deeply. You should always discern the truth for yourself, just like I do. I've said this, so many of these things that I keep saying, like I'm not perfect, I admit flaws, I say you should never just listen and do what I tell you to do just because I said it. It's like you should see though that, okay, if you relate a lot to me or vibe with me, like many times we're gonna end up agreeing on things, but I don't want you to just by default, like, yeah, I like Theo, so I do what he says because I like him. No, you should consider everything I said, and then when you follow whatever I said, it's not because I said it, it came from me, but you do it because you think it's the right thing to do, all right? So that's one message, is generally what, like, with me here as Coach Theo, and how you should look at it in my view. Like, go somewhere fucking else if you're gonna argue so much, you know. like ask questions, but going into argumentation. It's like you're gonna be wrong most of the time. That's why I'm gonna crush you absolutely if we get into it, you know, to teach you and whoever else reads that. But the other thing is just, guys, it's tough. It's really tough to have to face certain things you were wrong about. None of what I've told you was easy. In my romantic relationship, the things I've had to fucking face and take responsibility for, it's not fun. It's not easy. Anyone would understand why certain mistakes would have been made. But in the end, it's still, when it comes down to it, I didn't do it right and I had to change. I had to take that. And that's, the more you do that, the closer you come to the truth. You don't have to live a lie. You learn better. It's about, I'll end on this note, openness and curiosity. It's not that you're supposed to question, like feel insecure, self-conscious about everything you do, but also don't close yourself off to anything, whether it's critique or praise, positive or negative input you get, or just information about something. Always just take it in, consider it, compare it to your experience and reality, and then if it turns out, no, I still don't agree with this, well, now we can throw it away. Sometimes like, you know what, I actually think this is true. And sometimes it's somewhere in the middle, like, what I heard, I don't agree completely with it, but I realize I've been going a bit too much in this direction. It could become more right. Be fucking right. That's the point. Of course, this video became much longer than I thought. But, yeah, whatever. Please like and comment. Very interesting to hear your thoughts, and it all helps support the channel. The algorithm helps more people find their way here, so it's very much appreciated. I do holistic bodybuilding coaching, getting jacked and stacked mentally, physically, spiritually, working on ourselves, body, mind, and soul. Becoming that man that is right. That's why he looks right, because he is right. Do you know how much lies I have to call out in many of my clients? That's what I do, guys. So if you're interested, you can send me a DM. It's not all I do, but send me a DM on Instagram or email me. It's in the description below. I'll get back to you with my different programs and offers. You pick up my training book, everything training, philosophy, mindset related that you need in order to become a self-reliant, jacked and stacked individual. Please subscribe for more content about fitness, fast losing weight, building muscle, self-improvement, sources, mental health, philosophy, spirituality, mindset. It is a mindset, guys.
Du har horribla vanor. Se det inte som ett offer. Du bär ett ansvar här. Du har gjort dåliga val. Döm inte dig själv, för det är inte som att du bär hela ansvaret. Du kan inte tro för att du föddes in i den här världen vid den här tiden. Erkänn att du gjorde fel. Tänker du förneka att du har gjort fel och sitta kvar och må skit? Eller tänker du ändra på någonting?
Dare to admit that you were wrong. Do it over and over. And you'll almost always be right in the end. Peace.
Sexpundare, Netflixpundare, Instagrampundare, vad du nu pundar för någonting. Kanske alltihop.